Thank you, Allison and Nicole. And it's a pleasure to sit with Aldis and Edwin today. Thanks you guys for hanging out.
Thank
Oh,
you, and thank you,
yeah.
Allison and Nicole as well.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate y'all.
So I don't know where to begin. I kind of want to begin at the very beginning of
Mhm.
before you guys were professionals. I don't even know when you say you did stuff at 13, how far we have to go back to like when you were just dreaming about what you wanted to do in this industry. Tell me what that
Yeah.
was and what your family, what was the
Let me,
conversation in your household?
I'll give you the
Yeah,
roundabout. So like both of us started when we were 3. My brother Edwin told my mom he wanted to be in the box, watching like the Cosby Show. The box was the TV. So, we moved to Jersey, and we were primarily raised between Jersey and New York. We started our careers in background work, print, moving up
modeling.
to like modeling, yeah,
Yeah,
moving up to television, like with we did 2 years on Sesame Street as part of that cast. Moved to plays. We did what was it, 2.5 years on
no vote.
Broadway with Showboat.
Yep.
And then we moved to LA right around, I think I was
Well,
10, you were
not,
11.
not, well, I mean, we kind of jumping, man.
I mean, we young. You know what I'm saying?
We
I'm
started
trying to
at
get
3,
through.
but like, New York was our stumping grounds.
It
That was our
was, yeah.
education, and
Yeah.
I say that because I feel like we were educated by one of the more prominent artists in this industry, Mr. Sam Jackson. We had the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
opportunity to work with him on Die Hard with a Vengeance, and then I later worked with him in A Long Kiss
Long
Goodnight.
kiss, good night.
But
Yeah.
Sam Jackson is the one who really kind of got us into the idea of doing Broadway and doing theater. We had no idea
Yeah.
what it was. We didn't know it existed, but he talked to my mom and was just like, listen, if you want to educate your kids on you know what this industry
The
is about and how to be
the
professionals,
craft.
whatnot, the craft,
Get them
getting
on
them on
stage.
stage was important. And
Mm.
not shortly after not shortly after we had that conversation, we had our first audition for Showboat on Broadway with Aaron
Yeah.
Prince.
And
The
did,
And
crazy thing is, oh,
oh,
I'm
yes,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just trying to imagine what it looked like because I know when I came in the industry a long time ago, and you're barely the only Black person, how little
Yeah.
power you felt you had, because you were just happy to like be in a scene where you could see what the
Yeah.
industry looked like. What did it feel like at that time?
Well, I say
we
here's the
didn't.
thing about that. Like, I mean, we had, in terms of our reality and our space, our mother protected us. She exposed us to the truth just so that we knew how to combat the truth. She protected us and let us know our value, but it was difficult. Like, there weren't a lot of jobs that were readily available for young Black kids. So my mom would go on a breakdown, so she would hustle up and see if it said, audition for a little Caucasian boy, a little Hispanic boy. She didn't care. She would submit us. And a lot of times, we get the jobs, or my brother worked, was working a little bit more than me, and in the early stages. I was finding my way. What I dealt with a lot was oftentimes people would just straight up tell me, hey, look, you're too dark, and for a little 8-year-old kid, that's like, what are you telling me I'm too dark for this? Are teaching me to hate myself at some point. Or my brother and I would go on auditions, and we would sit there, and there would be a 40-year-old Caucasian casting director, and he would be looking at us telling, oh, you're not Black enough, because we're articulate and educated. So we learned at an early age, generally the world, or at least within the business, the perspective of what Black people and Black culture is derogatory and deplorable. This is
Less
what our
than.
reality was. You know what I'm saying? At a young age, you don't understand that we as a culture are intelligent and articulate in academia and theology and theory. This all comes from the nucleus of our culture. Like, we are a part of this. You know what I'm saying? It is, so because our mom educated us, we understood our value, and we had to fight through. We had to make sure that we chose this industry above all. And granted, the industry was not the priority. Education was. Education was the priority. The business was the privilege. We had to earn it.
Yeah,
If we weren't bringing
exactly.
home A's and B's, moms was not with it.
Mm.
She was, because she knew, she said, look, you can make all the money in the world. It don't mean nothing if you can't read those contracts. So, mom was paramount in us understanding who we were and shaping our mindset for getting to where we are today. Now, my brother and I, we have a production company. That we've had individual production companies for a minute, but we have a production company now together that we run with our mother. So
I love it.
you know,
So, and you're a hyphenate. I mean, you're writing, you're producing, you're acting. Was that always the goal, to be sort of in all parts of it? Or did you find that was more, you had more power by sort of taking more of those roles?
So I think as far as, you know, our careers are concerned, I mean, for the longest time, it was, you know, waiting for that audition to come through, you know, and hoping that we'd be able to fit whatever type of mold they wanted us to fit into, you know. We grow up watching
the molds. I mean, just to piggyback, the molds that we were given were not great representations. They were not great molds. So continue that. I'm sorry.
Exactly. You know, so as far as we're concerned, we learned at an early age that decisions had to be made by us for us. You know, we walking into these casting directors' rooms, you know, the majority of the time we knew we were going to see a mid-40s white woman or a mid-40s white man. Like, yeah, we knew that we were up against a lot, you know, because for us, we didn't understand, or we didn't really know if they understood us culturally. If what we were bringing to them was, you know, suitable for the image that my brother and I wanted to put out there as young Black men. You know,
and for the audience, real quick, for the audience that might push up against, you know, the referencing or the framing of us going into our room, seeing a, you know, middle-aged white casting director as a potential issue, you got to understand it. We're not talking about everybody, but in our experience, what we have handled or had to deal with is the fact that we go up against people who don't look like us, so they don't understand us in the true nature. So when we do something that they don't understand based on their, I would say, cultural negligence, it looks different to them. So it's not correct, when in fact it is correct for us. So we have to fight against people's ideas or ideologies that are not inherently true or rooted in honesty about our culture. So we have different things to prove when we step in a room when it comes to just trying to get a job, as opposed to just focusing on performance. We have to focus on, well, how do you see me as a human being? Or do you see a man, or do you see your idea of a Black man?
And
you know what I'm saying?
The thing that is so surprising to me about that, when I try to put myself in their space, is like, okay, let's say I'm going to do a movie about India or Russia. Who am I as a Black woman to say what it's like to be a Russian man, girl, child? Like, it would seem so inconceivable for me to sit across the table to a Russian and say, well, this is how you need to act. Like, it's
exactly.
No, you're not going to do that. You're not
go get somebody from there. Go get the source. Go do the research, study. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think that's the mold we built for ourselves. You know, trying to transition into being writers and producers. You know, I started writing when I was 18 years old, you know, thanks to my brother, because he write poems and things of that nature.
Actually, it was 13, because I remember I started writing because you started writing. I was 12, because what happened was I was on a TV series on Nickelodeon and I got fired. I got fired, right? I'm not gonna say what series it was, but I got fired. And my brother and I were both on the series. And what happened was they did a pilot. They tested it, you know, they test nationally and all that. Myself, along with a few other cast members, tested higher in popularity than the lead on that show. So instead of pushing with it, we got fired because they didn't want us to overtake our outfit, right? So it didn't make sense to me as a 12-year-old kid. I'm like, yo, I'm about to be my first TV show. About to go, and it's like, wait, what? Plug and play? So I felt horrible, and I know that I never wanted to feel like I had to work for anybody ever again. I only work with people to whatever capacity we are in the same professional lane, but I'm not going to work for you. I'm going to work for myself. So I'm not just a can that you take off and put on the shelf. My brother started writing, and then that's when I started writing, because I was like, oh, if we can make it, then, you know, I mean, who's going to tell me I can't do my own show?
For looking for, I guess, the more power, you know, then you had more agency about what kinds of roles that you would put in, you know.
I agree, but I would also reframe it. And in my mind, I was looking for professional autonomy and freedom. Being able to move in the space how I wanted to without dealing with other people's
Yeah.
uh,
It,
faulty ideas of
it was more
what
so
I'm supposed to be.
respect, right? It's more
Yeah,
so the
that too.
respect. We don't
You
need
know,
power. For me, power can be such a ugly thing.
but we
We
also have
wanted,
power.
we have power, yes, but
Yes.
it was the respect and the acknowledgement of who we are as people, as
Yeah.
artists, as human beings, as writers, as actors, right? It was that's what I was wanting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Within getting that respect, you naturally get that power because people will
Yeah.
naturally gravitate towards you for information, for your advice, for your abilities to come on and help their project be better. That's
Right.
where the power lies, right? The power lies in knowing that other people are going to want you to be on their team. Go
Right.
ahead.
And I will say that for anybody who might misconstrue the concept, when you say power, especially when you're sitting in a position that can help dictate somebody else's career choices, power is actually a synonym for responsibility. And
Ability.
most people don't handle their responsibility properly the way they should. They abuse
Yeah.
it. But
Yep.
when you're sitting here as a director, an executive producer, whatever, and you got a whole crew, you got actors you hire, and you got people whose families need to be fed, you are now in a position to take care of people. That's your job. You got to manage. And myself, my brother and I were both producers. I sit as an executive producer on another project. We're creators, writers. We do our thing. And the whole job is really, as you're pushing forward with your agenda to get the film, the TV show made, whatever, who are you taking care of? If you're talking to an audience specifically, are you matching their expectations by getting the voices right? What message are you delivering? Some people want to stay in their own head about doing what they want to do, and they forget you are delivering a service. You are in the service business.
Business. Yep.
So who are you taking care of, and how are you taking care of them? So what we experienced was an abuse of power because we were not taken care of by this industry.
Do you think, because we talked and laughed a little bit, like, okay, in terms of things getting better and okay, we've had a Black president, so yeah, it's all over. What is that? Because I think there've been the rooms. I think there's been a little bit of a shift in terms of like the industry now understands that representation means money. Like I think they get that, like, oh, there's
Yeah,
money to be had there, so we need to listen.
yeah.
And if we listen to the Hodge brothers about representation, maybe we'll make a project that will make more money. So there's a little bit of a connection there, I think. But what does it look like on the front line
Right.
of like trying to actually get it done? Because I think the more you can, without names, but the more you can like paint a picture of what that exchanges feel like to be on the front lines, I think it will help empower other people to have those conversations.
I'm sorry, this kind of gets me a little giddy because we right in
Yeah.
the thick of it. we in the thick of it.
Think of it.
As I said before, and I'll say to people, I'm trying not to be pessimistic. I'm a realist. I believe that a lot of the problems have now gone away. They've just evolved to what people deem to be culturally appropriate. What do I mean by that? Back in the 1800s, there was a whole lot of people that thought enslavement was culturally appropriate, so they didn't fight against it, right? There are a lot of problems that they didn't go through, so they didn't see it as an issue. Today, we have so many problems that people go through that others don't, so they don't necessarily see it as an issue. Let's just be real. 2020 happened, and because everybody was forced to sit at homes and watch the degradation of the country as we all were encroached in this madness together. Granted, we as a culture, Black people have been in this madness for a long time, but when others had to sit there and see it, a lot of people woke up to the fact, oh no, racism is real. Like, don't just come to me now acting like this is a real thing. Have you not been here?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Through the Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Sarah Garner, Mike Brown, Trayvon, Emmett Till, like it's here. This is what is here, but you have to address it. A lot of people jumped on the concept or the idea of racism as a channel for money, right? And what I kind of start saying is that people were capitalizing on our culture by commoditizing our pain. You know what I mean? They didn't understand it.
Our culture's always been capitalized on.
It always has.
When you think about the history and the inception of America and where we are in our advancements in technology and so forth, listen, we have the Benjamin Banneker's of the world. A Black woman, invented the security system, the elevator, got the ice cream, gas mask, the traffic light. Like the washing machine. We're present.
We've been here. The
But
acknowledgement
because somebody wants to
hasn't.
put General Electric on the washing machine, they don't see us, right?
Right.
But we've been here. We've existed.
Yeah.
We've helped this country grow in so many more ways than anybody could ever think.
We are this country.
We are this country. we
And
are.
that's not to exclude anybody else. It's not to say that you're not. It's just saying that we shouldn't have to be in a position to continually prove that we are. You know what I mean? Now, granted, we have been able to put ourselves in better positions as of late to help our own, to bring our own up, to earn a little bit more. Some people get in these positions and they don't exercise it properly, you know, so I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people that are in these positions who are, you know, I mean, if I'm gonna drop a name out of respect, you know, the Issa Raes of the world who literally created a whole lane, you know, whole thing, you know what I'm saying? I highly, greatly respect what she's done with her work. But we have those people who are actually doing it and doing the job right. So yes, technically in certain ways, things have gotten better, but it's about mindset. I have literally spoken to, I remember speaking to an associate of mine who's Caucasian, who I've known for years, who wanted to actually debate me on the idea that he disagreed with pushes for inclusion in the industry. He didn't think that he should have to lose a job because a studio or company wants to prioritize Black and brown. And I said, what you have to understand, look at the metrics. Look at the fact that over the years, you have been prioritized for the color of your skin. And he says, well, the best man for the job should get the job. And I said, that's true, but that's not real for the industry. So right now, what you're feeling, granted, this is somebody who's on multiple shows making millions of dollars a year. Like, bro, no shade. I'm not saying you shouldn't work. You don't have to worry about that. But what you have to understand is nobody's going to feel sorry for you in this space, because what you're introduced to is not a lack of opportunity. There's no progression. There's no targeting you. What you're introduced to is the reality, because this is what the rest of us have had to deal with forever.
Yes.
Yep.
So now you're seeing what the reality of the space is and what it looks like for us. And you can't handle just 2% of it.
5% of what you had before, or whatever.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. Well, okay.
So
can we talk about like a specific frontline, you know, around hair and the industry?
Oh
dear God. Dear God.
I mean, we can talk about hair and makeup. Like that.
Dear God.
You know,
yo, Ed, I'm sitting right next to Art right now. Art is a, you know, this is family. Is a dear friend, dear family. Like, me and my dude, Art, we've been down for 13 years. This is my brother from another mother who has been my barber for a number of years. The way that I found Art is because I was on a production where they had no people in the room to represent me. And I said, yo, I need a barber. They're like, oh, we're going to send you to a salon. I said, no, I need, you know, an old man on a stoop with some rusty clippers. Like, I need a drink. You know, I needed a barber. The fact is, I went out. Honestly, this is how it was. I was in a town that I didn't see a lot of Black people, but the one night I saw a group of young Black men my age, I ran up to him like, yo, my man, who cuts your hair? Put me in touch with Art. So I was going down to Art, you know, for my cuts before I go to work. Before that, I had to go down to my other barber, you know, in LA to go get my cuts. We have to do something different. Black women go through it in a whole different way. And what the industry doesn't understand is that for so long, we walk into spaces where we are not considered or prioritized. And when you talk about hair and makeup, that's essential. We walk into spaces where people don't have the experience on Black hair. Most people don't realize that in the union specifically, like for a long time, you've had to have a cosmetology license to get in the union, but a barber license didn't carry weight, right? So there's not a lot of barbers in the union. It took my man 13 years to get in the union, which means that you have a lot of people who are typically, they don't look like you, but they're typically working on you, but don't have the experience. They don't know how.
No.
You have makeup artists, and it's not to say that just because you're Black, you'll know automatically. No,
exactly.
But being Black, you can have a different conversation about experience because you grew up with Black, right? I recently overheard a story about a makeup artist who said that she didn't understand why Black actors request black makeup and hair. She felt it was offensive. Like a white actor would never do that. Lady,
White
white
actors
actors
don't
don't
have
have
to do
to.
that. You don't have
They
to.
don't have to.
You
You
don't show
have
up in a
never
room.
walked into a space on a set where the room is 99%, the 99% of the room doesn't look like you. The majority of the time, anybody black or brown walks into a set, the majority of the time, 99% of the room doesn't look like us. So we have to fix our minds in a different way to deal with the day. And how do we get through? Oh, I see a makeup artist. First question, if you are not black, have you worked on black hair? Okay, how? What do you know about black hair? Do you know how to cut? What's a fade? What's the difference between a fade, a shadow fade, a burst fade, a ball fade? Like, what is the difference? Do you understand what this character is going through transitionally with his hair as a storyline? And sometimes, a lot of times they don't know, but they feel entitled because of their position, and they think their power allows them to not care.
Yeah,
Or
and
they get offended.
part of it is they're afraid of losing the dominance that they've had in this industry. Even if again by 2%, it feels like the world to them because they've had the world, forever.
Exactly.
And they don't realize we're only asking to be taken care of. It's simple.
That's it.
You don't know the stress of going through the day with I have some shows and films I don't even watch because my hair is so busted.
Oh,
so busted. I'm like, I can't
caked on. And you can't watch yourself.
Well, that's where I pick up this sort of the other example of like my Russian example is just like, because we know what it's like to not be taken care of and understood. That I try to use that analogy, like, well, what would you do if you were producing a show and it wasn't an all black show? What does it look like for you to deal with inclusion representation that is not you, so people can see what that looks like?
It is as simply as educating yourself. If I'm gonna write a story, about a black man and a white man and in a friendship or what so forth, there's certain cultural experiences, certain life experiences that white men go through that black men will never ever go through, and vice versa, right? So it's talking to a lot of my Caucasian friends, or it's going to be talking to my Indian friends or Asian friends or what so forth, so that when I write something down and I'm looking at it, it might sound right to me, it might look right to me, but my first instinct is to go to my friends and be like, yo, is this cool? If you heard this or saw this in the film, would you take offense to it? And why would you take offense to it? So that I have a better understanding of what it is to be inside their skin.
Right. It's like phone a friend, right? But it's like you have to have a friend to be able to phone, right? You have to be able to have those conversations.
Exactly. We can't, like you said, we can't write about Russians. But if I go talk to my boy Nikolai, he can give me all his backstory about what it's like to be in Russia, and what what the weather is like, and the topography of the land is like. I don't know that. I know what it looks like from the pictures, but to be embedded and engrossed in that environment, I have no clue. So we need to outsource to the people who do.
The idea of inclusion is taken in by so many as exclusion, and that's not the case. Inclusion is fairness. You know what I'm saying? And we're only fighting. We're not fighting for supremacy or superiority. We're fighting for a means of equality. However, I believe fervently that equality is the most terrifying concept for a great deal.
Yes, it is.
Unfortunately. But when you're talking about inclusion, that means just trying to get it right. So yes, if I do have an all black cast, I'm going to have what's on the screen reflected behind the screen when it comes to the crew. That is my first priority. That doesn't mean everybody got to be black, but it means my first thought is, how can I take care of my people in the most honest way? If I have a multicultural cast, generally, I'm going to get a multicultural reflection of crew members because every crew member is essential. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to have to deal with my black female lead coming up to me saying, yo, my hair wasn't right. They ain't put the extensions in because they don't understand my grade of hair. They had me go home. They want me to wash, and I can't do, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't know. And that creates a static in the mind that then permeates the performance and people's work ethic. And people, when they go home, they lose sleep over this, right?
You think about it all the time.
yeah, how can I create the most comfortable environment for you to do your best work in order to move? And I'm saying this knowing that, you know, I got like I'm bi-coastal. Like I got makeup artists on the West Coast, I got makeup artists on the East Coast, right? I love my peoples, you know what I'm saying? But I got a makeup artist that's black and I got a makeup artist that's white. They do great jobs because they understand, you know what I'm saying? Took the time to learn. So it's not about excluding people based off of skin color. However, because we are dealing with color, are you educated in the color and the culture beyond color? Because it's not about color. Are you educated in the culture? Do you understand what certain things mean and why they mean so much?
And the thing
that's the importance
here is like in certain disciplines, like we can talk about animation or something, you know, you could say, oh, well, we try to find somebody of color. Believe me, I deal with this all the time, but we can't find anybody qualified, right?
That's a lie.
Everybody ready. I mean, the thing that's interesting about the barber conversation is like, oh, they're qualified and they're all over the place. Like, it's not like they don't know, like, you know, they just have to be, you know, whatever the union, you know, whatever. How do you sort of combat that?
Here's my answer to that. There are great people out there. If you don't know who they are, if you don't know where to find them, it's because you're not looking or you're not trying to look, right? But if you do find somebody who's fantastically skilled, but you say they're not qualified, guess what? You're in a position to qualify them. So do your job.
I can guarantee you there are 100 barbers in New York right now that are qualified to work all over the U.S.
Exactly. Easily. But in speaking
they just don't have the opportunity, they don't have the connections to the industry.
Yeah.
You know, but they're qualified.
But speaking to your point about like the animation and like, you know, of course, like with my company 9B, founded by my two partners, Phil Boutte Jr., Michael Wandy, myself, the whole push and the whole point of founding the company was about supporting the BIPOC community artists that don't get the shot. We do have to deal with, well, we can't find it. So guess what? We're going to start a company. We're going to go find these people. We're going to go put them in the lane. And we have a grandfather tier system in our company where if we get a job where we have people who are talented, maybe don't have all the experience, we'll pair them with a senior artist who might be the art director for that job and staff them up with other people who are talented, but they can learn the business dealing with this art director so that they can then become qualified to go and work and do whatever else. Because there's no point in there are people who get the shot who may have the credentials, granted, but are not nearly qualified to work on me. But because of their title, you know what I'm saying, and their years in the business working on other sets and other people that don't look like me, they're deemed qualified. And a lot of it has to do with the color of their skin. You know what I mean? But we, as Black and brown people, don't get the same look. We are not granted opportunity based on the, as my partner Phil puts it, I'm paraphrasing, we're not granted opportunity based on our potential as others are. We are granted based on experience, right? What have you done? Prove to me that you can do this. But how can I show you that if I'm never given an opportunity?
Yes. And I love that. And one, I always still smile that like of all your accolades and things, I'm like, oh, he's an animation, he's an art guy. I love that.
Yeah. All day. 9B collective,
But I also, you know, to your point, it is taking strategy and planning, because I do run across, okay, we need somebody that has had the leadership, because you also don't want to get somebody in animation or anywhere in there where they're not going to be able to, like the barber's an easy one. Barber knows how to do it, get in there, get them done.
Right.
To give them the leadership, you have to sort of be strategic. And like you said, maybe it's money, maybe it's time, it's mentorship. It's really taking whatever steps it is to get them, like, I'm looking for female, I said this on the Brick Summit 3 years ago. I want to hire Black female animation directors. That is hard. That is probably the least populated part in the animation. Let's see.
Exactly.
So what do we have to do to make sure in 2-3 years we have those ladies really, you know, getting the experience so that they could be, you know, considered for that. But it takes the time and the strategy to do that.
Yeah, I'm always a creative. I'm like, if it's not there, I definitely got to create it. That's been my whole MO. That's why I call myself a serial entrepreneur. Like I'm all about starting a business. Because from the framework of our foundation, you know, aside from what our mother taught us, the world told us the opposite, that we would never have and that we were supposed to be less than our potential. So in spite of the world, my way of combating that was, if I can't own it, afford it, or whatever, buy it one day, if you're not going to give me the opportunity to get it, I'm going to make it myself.
Yeah.
If there isn't, then I will be the is. There is, so people, I think, should create better pipelines when it comes to scaling up and creating and generating positions of seniority when it comes to the needs, meeting the needs. You need a Black female art director. All right, there isn't one. Well, let's put a couple of jobs who have potential, and let's work them up. Let's teach them what being an art director is, and let's create and populate the sort of the space for that, just so that the next time you ask, you don't even have to ask. It's there. You know what I mean?
And also we get to, slowly take away the label of Black this, Black this, Black that. It's, oh, this female, this director here, like, she's amazing. Like, let's bring her over. Hey, yo, this the set design director, we love him. Let's bring him over. Let's take our color out of it.
Yes. Just a
you know what I'm saying?
talented.
Like I mean, we have to make a big deal of our skin color, and we have to accept our skin color in different ways, because there's a large population of the world that doesn't. And so then it becomes this big hot button issue for us to be like, yeah, we need to hire a Black this, and we need to hire a Black that. We need that, because we need that growth and that diversity, and we need to feel like, yes, we are progressing in this world. Yes. But at a certain point, being a Black this, or being an Asian that, or being a Latino this, we're not saying you're a white actor. We're not saying you're a white director. We're not saying you're a white, production designer. We're not saying that. So why do we have to be the Black this and the Black that and the Black this? Why can't we just be? Why can't we exist?
Exactly.
That's what we've been fighting towards for a minute. And I mean, it's rooted in our culture. I mean, I say this all the time. It's a hot button. Maybe some people disagree with me, but when you think about communities in this country, in America, when you regard white-skinned Americans, you think American, right? But anybody who's from a Black or brown diaspora, ethnicity, or whatever, African American, Latin American, Asian American, Hispanic American, whatever.
There's no
even
white
if you
Americans.
were born here, right? But however, when you talk about somebody who immigrated here, somebody from Russia, or Germany, or Albania who has white skin but speaks the King's English, they came here like 17, 20 years old, they learned to speak the King's English. You look at that person, you automatically regard that person as, oh, you're American, you're not German American, right? So when it comes to the nature of why we need the titles now, we need to specifically ask, hey, I need a Black this, I need a Black that. We know it's because we are not considered. And when I ask for a makeup artist, you're not going to consider and think, oh, let me get a makeup artist who is Black. You're going to think, let me just get somebody who I know, who I'm comfortable with, right? That don't look like me.
Right.
So we have to, and to my brother's point, we are tired of having to. So we're trying to work through getting to a point where real, true acknowledgement of equity and equality is met when they think about it, so we don't have to always bring it up, because then we're putting boxes and it's oftentimes used against us. Well, why do you need and this and well, to ask for a Black this is racist? No, it's not. I'm saying I'm asking for what I need, and what I need is the experience that comes from somebody who has his skin, because we're working on a project with people with this kind of skin, and we're talking about not even against skin, culture. What we go through because of our skin is different than what you go through.
Yes.
You have to realize it's a real thing. Your reality is not the only reality that matters. You are not the definition of humanity. You are a monochrome of the definition, a small percentage of the definition of humanity. Think outside,
and so feel that, the trauma of you having to be in those rooms and deal with that conversation versus being with a Black director that you don't have to. We've had the weight on our shoulders for so long. You forget what it feels like when you don't have to tell Regina, you're all in shorthand, you got it.
We just like, we back and forth. And there's just an ease and a flow to it. And again, for people who may bump up against what we're talking about, that's not to say that we are not comfortable in rooms, in an all-white rooms having a conversation. It's just like, there are things that you don't get, so we have to explain oftentimes. I've literally sat in conversations with mostly white male writers who I'll say, look, we need this, we need this. This is why I need a Black writer for this particular subject. Y'all want to talk about this? Let's get a Black writer. And I've literally had them say, well, you know, I've written for Black people before. It's okay. I've got it. No, you don't. Why?
Yeah.
Because just because you may be a great writer, you will never be able to authentically write a Black voice.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
It's not to take away any skill
it's not to
set or
discredit
any.
you, or-
It's just that I will never be able to authentically write a white voice from a white experience, from perspective from the white culture. I can write a character. If that character happens to be played by a white actor and is played brilliantly, that's one thing. But if I want to talk about white issues, that ain't me. I ain't got it, fam. I'm gonna need to go holler at some of my white homies and be like, yo, my man, how do we address this? Let's figure it out together.
Right.
But it's the ego to think, no, I got it. I can
Unbelievable. And to me, and I say trauma and to be exaggerated, but it's like it's like it's so much
No,
more
it's trauma.
to deal with in terms of trying to explain to that.
It is trauma.
And if George Floyd in one little instant got a few people understanding just a little bit of that, then you start to go, okay, we don't even have any idea what people are going through, and we need to really start to listen.
Right.
But
that's what it is. We're all going through things, but it feels like when it comes to business, we in our culture continue to go through the same thing, and it doesn't feel like we've moved on.
Yeah.
And every time inclusion and diversity is brought up, it has to be met with pushback. It has to be a big effort. But why do you have to put so much effort into considering something that should just naturally be?
Yeah.
That is what is almost insulting.
And I think, I mean, you know, you sound sort of pessimistic, and I understand why, because in those battles every day, and I am too, but I mean, my optimism is when those rooms change, when it looks different, when you're not the only one, when you can look across the room and see somebody that gets that because they are of color or they're a minority, whatever it is, then I think that the things will start to change. I hope that is a piece of it. The other thing I'm taking away from you is that just the responsibility, what it feels like to be in the front line, the responsibility that you need. So I wanted to, then we say what you're saying, then I want to switch to sort of this idea, like where are we in culture, cancel culture, where are we? We'll talk about that in a second.
So I'll segue into that. I think that in terms of being on the front lines, you have to be relentless about your point. You have to be relentless and to a degree ruthless, right? Because you cannot sacrifice yourself, your well-meaning or your beliefs for the sake of somebody else's comfort. When I go and I'm dealing with it, if I look at a script, right, and the writer happens to be white, I'm not thinking, oh, this is a white writer. If it's a good script, it's a good script. Now, if we're talking about cultural issues, I'm going to look at what culture the writer is. Because if there are things that have been gotten that are I disagree with, or things that I don't think represent properly, I would like to know, okay, who is the writer? Where are they from?
And
what culture are they? Because the subject matter is culture. So is it a true source, right? So it's not about creating more animosity amongst different ethnic groups at all. It's about figuring out homogeny. How can we all get to a place where we just regard one another equally, right? And it is frustrating and tiring. And a lot of people ask, well, you know, I mean, things have changed, right? Things have gotten better. If you have to ask, then they haven't gotten better. I think of change and real progress coming over years and years of time of accepted normalcy. When we don't have to have these conversations anymore, that's when true change has been met, in my opinion. But if you have to ask, then you already know the answer.
Yeah, but every studio has a diversity inclusion person. It's like, you don't need that if we're
you don't need exactly. That makes
because
we gotta
to think about that
to make sure we diversify our company.
Because we're not going to do it on our own, because we're
not going to do it on our own. So we need to go hire somebody to go do it for us. Really?
I ask people to think of it like this, because some people again still won't understand what it is. If you are Caucasian, what do you think it would feel like if a company had to create an initiative to hire more Caucasian people? That sounds ridiculous. And not saying that you don't need to be addressed. It's not saying that, but it is saying that it's ridiculous because the concept of you being out of work or not being considered has rarely, if ever, been put on the table. It's only when other cultures who are marginalized and given less opportunity, when you're talking about the pay gap between women and men, when you're talking about the job disparity between different ethnic groups and the dominantly Caucasian group that still, if you look at metrics, works more, right? It's only when you're considering the smaller groups that everybody, oh, no, this is, you're taking away from me. But you got to understand, there's always enough. I just said this in an article. There's always enough room on the table for everybody to eat. But opening up opportunity, equanimity for other cultures doesn't mean less for the culture that's already standing. It doesn't mean less for you. It really doesn't. But the fact that we have to have these initiatives, every time somebody opens up an initiative, yay, great. But at the same time, God dang it, you weren't just already doing this naturally. You have to, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
bruh, you know, it's frustrating. So cancel culture. Let's get
Cancel
it.
culture. Here we go.
I'm just saying, like, what world are we in? Like, I'm trying to look at the vision and how we're going to make this world better. Where are we
Yeah.
in terms of like where comedy sits and where being an artist, Edwin, just curious what your thoughts are on that. Where are we? What are we going to do?
We're in a time where, like you said, everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to be respected. When we talk about these different diverse groups, the LGBTQ community, when we talk about the Black, the Latin American community, what so forth, when it comes to cancel culture, I feel like a lot of times we as a people, we are simply speaking what is true to us, especially comedians, right? Comedians get on stage and, what they're doing is bearing their soul for laughs. Kevin Hart gets on the stage, he's up there, he's making you laugh, but behind all of that is a very true story. Behind that is a human being with life experiences. We look at Dave Chappelle and what he's going through. Are we supposed to agree or disagree with him? No, he's going up there, he's speaking his truth. I personally don't feel like he did anything or said anything to really vehemently put a secular group into this black hole of negativity. He was just speaking from what he believed, in his mind, made sense about a specific topic or what so forth. Comedians, they bear the weight of the world, right? We go to comedians for laughs. We go to get outside of our moments of depression and what so forth. Like, that's what they're there for. But we also have to understand that they deal with real world issues. And a lot of times when they're speaking their truth, they're speaking real world issues. And it's going to be a perspective that, once again, if I go, watch a white comedian on stage, he's going to have a life experience that I have no clue about. Mm-hmm. He's going to say certain things that, I'm going to be like, yo, that's funny. I love that. He's also going to say things that I might not understand.
Right.
And that's just because I just don't understand it. I'm not going to demean him for it. I'm not going to say it's a bad joke. It's not part of my culture. It's not part of who or what my makeup is. So who am I to vilify you, for speaking what is your truth?
Yeah, I think about the death of society and the evolution of a society, and that the artists are really the first ones to kind of get targeted.
Yeah, we get targeted.
What that means is sort of the canary in the coal mine, or whatever they say. And what do we do, again, as people in the front line, to kind of push against that cancel culture?
Right. I'll say,
go ahead. No, I mean, it's go.
As far as cancel culture, there has to be a real definition around what the standards are for it, right? If you're talking about somebody who's, physically, sexually, mentally abusing people, and they still continue to rise in power in their position, cancel, bye, goodbye. If you're talking about somebody who's exercising their art, I myself, having been a stand-up comedian for multiple years, I understand the mindset, and I understand, what the approach is. The approach, I don't think, is ever truly to hurt anybody, but you are taking life experiences, and a lot of times often darkness within yourself, and you're exercising that out on stage in front of people, right? Mm-hmm. There is a responsibility on the comedian to be consciously aware of the seeds that they're sowing, because they know there will be a reverberating effect around what they have said, around what they have done, right? So you should anticipate that. And I don't know if anybody really feels sorry for, we're old enough to understand, you know what, this is a bomb. I'm going to step on that. That's what comedians do, right? Comedians,
yes, they do.
But there is also a responsibility on the audience to take what they have absorbed and understand, where's my responsibility to myself to make a conscious decision. I'm not relying on you to tell me how to do what, right? I'm coming in, there's some comedians that I watch, some of their jokes I laugh at, some of their jokes offend me. I take what is, and I'm like, all right, was it a decent show overall? Looking at the art, I'm like, it's cool.
Looking at the art is important because some people can't, they haven't even seen it.
They haven't even seen it.
Exactly. You haven't seen it.
But do I carry that with me in my daily life? No. Now, granted, there are some comedians who, there are plenty of comedians out there who have, who are not Black, who have said racist things about Black people, right? Do I rock with them? Do I support them? Absolutely not. Am I going to campaign to, shut them down? Look, this is your mindset. You're entitled, do what you got to do. I don't support that, and granted, if it becomes a serious thing where, if you're advocating for the violence against Black people, yeah, we got an issue.
Yeah,
but if you're sitting there speaking on your, sorry, I got the New York Symphony going on behind me with the sirens. If you're sitting there in your own ignorance, talking about situations that you've encountered just for jokes and laugh, it's up to me to discern where that point is for my activity, my action, my accountability to myself. It's as simple as, do I turn the TV off or not? That's simple. I'm not saying that people are not affected. Yes, people can be affected, but it's based on how much value and stock you put in that human being.
Yeah, exactly.
And how much value you put versus how much value you put in yourself. So you have to really separate where is the joke and the art and the laughs, whether you like it or not. There's not a lot of art that I like all the time that gets, very, very high praise.
Yeah,
but where is that versus somebody who's consciously making a decision to hurt people? And you have to distinguish. So in terms of cancel culture, what are the standards, for what it actually means? And I'm just not speaking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying in terms of how we think about cancel culture and so quick to rush to cancel. Cancel culture was originally started by acknowledging men who truly were abusing women in heinous ways. And then somehow it just sort of
trickled into everything else.
Massaged into, well, now you can't say this and you can't say that. The comedian's job is to say the things that we're not readily available or willing to say in public, saying the dark thoughts or the crazy thoughts in our heads that you keep to yourself. But, I'm gonna get on stage and I'm gonna say what y'all thinking, but y'all don't want to say because it's funny. And, you felt this kind of way, but we don't all have to share the same feeling. You can choose to like or not like a comedian. It's that simple. But where's your responsibility to how you respond to the material?
Do you think comedians, because like you said, there's a group of oh no, we never want to see you again because you have crossed a line of, women misogyny or whatever. And then there's others do you think that there's redemption? Do you think that people can actually learn from the and then get a second chance? Or
well, I understand both sides, because there are some people who I'm like, yo, I don't ever want to hear your art again. I know you're going to continue to make art. It is what it is, but I'm not rocking with you because you said this that I don't mess with. So as far as the people who feel that way, I understand, I completely get it. There is always room for redemption, for sure, if we're talking about art, right? And that redemption is based on, to a degree, the artist and how they approach it. If they've understood, okay, I made this heinous offense, it is what it is. If they care to do something about it and they actually make a real turnaround and say, look, I get y'all. I was honest. It is what it is. I'm human, I'm flawed. But I understand what you're saying, and here's how and here's why. There always, I think, should be room for redemption. And oftentimes, well, at least I know in terms of our community, we're not afforded redemption publicly when it comes to our craft.
I look at what, when you go back to the word responsibility, that I
Mm-hmm.
think about my, as a storyteller and supporting other storytellers, what I can do in my craft to sort of help this human condition sort of evolve, so that it gets
Hmm.
better in the future, and sharing these perspectives and trying to open the door so that people can make a little aha moments to get to it while being entertaining, I think
Mm-hmm.
is important. And I look at, like, there's showing trauma, and they're showing, evolution, and so I'm just curious, as you guys think about, both of you, the work that you want to put your soul into, what do you want to focus on in the next, I don't know, 5 years or so?
I know for myself, just creating in an inclusive way. I mean, the projects that I've written, some are multi, dimensional when it comes to race and gender and what so forth. And it's simply educating myself and educating the world on perspective I've learned via those I've gotten education from, right? I can't sit here and write a show about, a relationship and what women go through unless I sit down and I talk to women. Unless I understand you know, what y'all are going through that time of the month, or what y'all going through when you're pregnant and you're in your trimester, and like we as men are very ignorant. We don't know any of that.
No.
We know we get tired in the morning when we have to wake up because you can't go to sleep, and we know that part, but we don't know what you're feeling internally. We don't know what y'all feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. So for both Aldis and I, with the projects that we have lined up in our slate, under the production company,
Mm-hmm.
we have projects that are tapping the senses of everyone. We don't care to really subject ourselves to one specific demographic or group. Do we have those projects that cater to an all African American cast, and stories of Africa and the lore? Yes, we do. But we also have those stories that include everybody and all different perspectives of the world. And
Right.
that's how we grew up. That's how our mother raised us. Our mother raised us to talk to anybody and everybody, and educate ourselves on the ins and outs of who someone is versus what we see. Because
Yeah.
what we see a lot of the times becomes a mainstay to who they are, even though that person may not be what our ideal image is because of our own experience.
Yeah.
So
And in terms of like,
diversify. Go ahead.
I was saying, in terms of like addressing inclusivity, in terms of in regards to our work, it's not something that we have to think about because
We
it's
don't.
something that we are, you know what I
You
mean?
do it.
In terms of how we see the world. So it's about putting out work that shows inclusion as normalcy. Let's get people to
Yeah,
define it and think about
define
it
it.
differently. When you do see these projects, I mean, yes, as my brother said, we have projects that, you know, the casting of the story, the framework of the foundation of it is, you know, wholly dependent on, you know, this culture, this culture, this culture. But when you're talking about art and you put out art out there, art is eaten up by everybody. At the end of the day, we're telling human stories. So you should not feel locked out, because it's like, I don't like the labels of, when you see a Lord of the Rings, it's oh, it's an epic film. It's, you know, boom, boom, boom. But if you were ever to see that kind of thing with a black cast, now it's a black movie, it's a black film. No, it's a film.
Mm.
It's a film. And because what you don't understand is there's a damaging way that using the terminology of a black movie, how it's pulled and used against us
Yeah,
in the offices, in the corporate office, when people are talking about cutting a check, when people are
But
talking about hiring. But a lot of
yeah,
people don't realize that, you know, for changing the color of your star, you can get a certain budget for a white person, or the studio may cut your budget in half
budget.
if you want to
Yep,
go with a black person. That's a very
yep.
common practice. So what we want to do is, with our work, continue to push the acceptance of normalcy. When you see people, oftentimes, like, you will see maybe um you'll maybe see a brother in a cast in a role as, you know, he's a gay actor who's playing a role, and then now his character is defined by him being gay, as
Mhm.
opposed to him just being a human being
Mm-hmm.
with a whole story and a journey.
Yep.
Being gay is a part of who
Mhm.
he is, but it's not the whole why can't we see a human being, and why do we always have to say, okay, because you're this is how I'm going to see you? You know, if we see a trans actor in a role, yes, that is a part of their identity. However, do they deserve to have that be the totality of, or the
Yeah.
defining factor? Why
Yeah.
Exactly.
can't they just be a human being who's
Yes.
going through something,
Do
right?
something. Yep.
That's the
Exactly.
normalcy that is afforded to, you know, predominantly Caucasian straight cast. And then when it comes to even black cast, oh, you're there and you're black, and we have to explain why you're here because you're the black guy who's doing da 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 da.
Yes.
And I want to do away with the
Yes.
explanations. We just want to be seen as regular human beings.
Yep.
Everybody should be afforded that luxury and that right, because honestly, it's what's naturally there. The rest of it, the uh, uh, predeterminations, all these things are taught
Mhm.
through ignorance and time. So
Yep.
it's there naturally. Let's get back to that, where we just accept people for who they are and what they are. And when we're watching their craft, we're truly getting to a place of appreciating and understanding the craft, because we're there to learn and we're there to soak it up and enjoy it. We're not there to judge.
Yeah.
It's just, and whatever resonates with us resonates. But, you know, we, with our work, we see people for people. We understand how it feels to be treated as less than or ugly or whatever because of people's ignorance and preconceived notions about us. We don't want to repeat those mistakes when it comes to dealing with those who are in our care as we move forward.
Yes, that's beautiful. I'll make this sort of the last question, and it kind of goes back to the like, how was it before and how is it now? And I'll just say, with my experience as an executive coming into the industry, you know, there were so little pieces of the pie that I felt like the Black people that were here were just kind of trying to keep their own little fiefdom,
Oh
and it
yeah.
wasn't
Oh
a sense
yeah.
of collection, right? So you
Right.
felt that, right?
Oh
So
yeah, for sure.
what
I think in many ways we still do that.
really,
Yeah.
that's what I was,
Yeah.
I feel like there's more of a collective, but speak to that. Like, where do you think we are then now, and where do you think we need to go?
I mean, as far as you know, where we are now, progress has been made, right? We can clearly define the progress that has been made. I think systematically for a lot of us, you know, when you don't really grow up with anything, you know, and all of a sudden you're at a position where, you know, you are now being handed everything. You don't want it to go anywhere, right? So we hold it and we keep it, and it's ours. And you know, it's hard for us to want to kind of share that success, you know, share that sense of you know, fulfillment, you know, because we don't know how long we're going to actually be able to maintain and obtain these things. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, you know, are we at a stage in the industry where we have, you know, Black execs out there, and that, you know, we're putting out projects, and, you know, Tyler Perry has his studio, Oprah doing her thing, you know, Issa Rae doing her thing, Regina King. Like, yes, we have our opportunities, and we are able to to do what we want, how we want to do it. You know, it doesn't mean though that that top tier structure is really accepted of of what we're doing.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so there's still that fight, you know, and it goes down to the hair and makeup rooms. It goes down to, you know, our DPs and our grips and electricians and PAs. Like it trickles down. They don't understand at the top how it trickles down throughout the system, but everybody's still fighting for that piece. You know, they're still
Yeah.
fighting for the go ahead now.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of hard. It is a hard question to answer because on the outside looking in, it does look like progress is happening. Yeah, we do have major positions right now, um, but from the inside, working outwards, as an executive myself, like I still see some of the same old antiquated behavior
Yep.
that keeps us pushed out.
Yep.
And you want to believe in the fact that there's true progress, but there is still, you know, this big sort of, there's a wall to a degree, but I'm like, all right, that's there, but I'm not even going to tear the wall down. I'm not even going to go around the wall. I'm going to build a whole new world, right? What
Yes.
we could do, I think, more is take up more space
Yeah.
with each
Yep.
other. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Get into a room and take up full space.
Yep.
There are a lot of people that we can look at who are really setting the tone and doing it really well. You know, I look at guys like Charles King, who, you know, with his company
Mr. King,
Macro, you know, is
Kemp,
doing his thing. Will
Mr.
Power,
Kemp.
Will Power Packer, you know, James Lopez is doing their thing. Kemp Powell's absolutely. Um, you got guys like Kenya Barris, you know, who are
Yep.
building out, you know what I'm saying? Like it's there for sure. I would even look at I guess magnets like look at LeBron and what he's doing with his company. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
exactly.
So you have it. It's there. It's just on us to continually acknowledge that it's there and walk and treat it like there is no other reality.
Exactly.
Because that's just what it is. That's how
what
we
it is.
walk. You know, I don't ask permission for nothing. I'm just going
Nope.
to do it.
Do it.
Look, you want me? All right, cool. You know, here's the price. Here's what the cost is. Here's what how I need to be regarded. Here's my title. Yada yada. If you want to give it to me, peace out. And so my brother's point about, you know, why we hold on. A part of the mentality of why we hold on is because we think if it's taken away, it'll never come again, right? A lot of that is the fear that we're stuck with because yes, in many ways that has been our history. I know a lot of times we just said we have to work to do what we have to do until we can do what we want to do, right? I'm gonna take this job, don't really rock with it, but you know, I gotta pay these bills and I'm just trying to keep working so somebody could hopefully see me. Now we're in a position we can do what we want to do. It is what it is. And it is a very freeing position. I say do what we want to do, not because we're extraneously wealthy or anything like that, or getting every kind of bit of work. It's not that. It's a mind state of comfort, of being confident enough to know that I understand the lanes to create for myself and how to do it. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. So I push that on anybody who's a young
and the lanes to
trying
create for everybody else.
That's
for everybody else.
It's bigger than, I think when I think about it, it's like it's bigger than any one of us, that we're trying to create a world and legacy so that in the future those paths are paved so people can walk through.
You got to create pathways.
Exactly.
But we all have the same equal capacity to do so.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So use all of your potential to continue to create those pathways and acknowledge what's normal to you, not what's in opposition.
Yes.
You know, when I see something that's a problem, I'm sorry, you're gone. I'm looking for solutions. And there is always a solution in a problem. And you know, I'm only met with problems just because I can figure it out. It's up to me to learn to try to figure it out. So with anybody who's trying to get through something, trust me, you already know how to get through it. It's on you to find it within yourself.
What I think is so powerful, and thank you so much for this conversation. I think that the more you share your personal challenges and how you kind of work through them, it gives people really the power to do that on their own with other, you know, in other battles that they face. So this conversation was absolutely amazing. You guys are so wonderful, so talented. I hope our paths cross and we can get some animation going and get some things going.
Oh, that's coming.
Be bright. But yeah, so thank you for this. Thank you for the great day of the first summit. So I think don't miss Education and Innovation Day tomorrow. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Allison, and back to you guys.
Yes, thank you.